National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza is once again confronting one of the oldest dilemmas in South African politics. What happens when constitutional duty collides with party loyalty? As Speaker, she is expected to act impartially and to protect the integrity of Parliament. But she is also a senior ANC leader deployed to a position by the very party whose president now finds himself at the center of an impeachment battle. That tension has erupted into the open following her decision not to oppose President Cyril Ramaphosa's urgent court application seeking to halt the work of Parliament's Impeachment Committee. Opposition parties have accused her of failing to stand up to the president. Some argue that she should be fighting alongside the committee to ensure that the impeachment process proceeds without delay. Others insist that doing so would compromise the neutrality of her office. So what exactly is the Speaker supposed to do in a situation like this? Is she required to be a political combatant and oppose the president in court? Or is her constitutional duty simply to ensure that Parliament has complied with the law and leave the final decision to the judiciary? More importantly, has Ramaphosa's handling of the Phala Phala matter placed yet another ANC speaker in the unenviable position of having to navigate the difficult space between constitutional obligations and political loyalty? In this episode, we examine the constitutional role of the Speaker, the legal battle over the impeachment process, and the political consequences of decisions that continue to haunt both the ANC and its president. Hello everyone, welcome back to Joe Talks Politics. I am your host, Joseph Musia. Let's get right into this. Like so many speakers before her, Thoko Didiza is facing a political firestorm that could directly impact her legacy. Ramaphosa's decision to interdict the impeachment committee has placed her in a position where she had to make one of two choices. The first was to stay neutral in this fight, which she has chosen to do. The second was to join political parties in filing opposing papers to block the president's interdict. In all honesty though, these are false choices. The only reality is that the Speaker only needs to act as the Constitution directs her. The Constitutional Court directed Parliament to set up an impeachment committee and to refer the report of the independent panel to it. She has fully complied with this ruling. What the opposition parties are trying to get her to do is to join them in their political fight with Ramaphosa. What we should always remember is that the Speaker is not a political litigant, but the constitutional custodian of the National Assembly and its processes. Her primary duty is to ensure that Parliament complies with the Constitution, the rules of the Assembly, and court orders, regardless of who may be politically advantaged or disadvantaged. In this matter, the Speaker's role is not to assist either President Ramaphosa or his opponents, but to explain to the court why Parliament established the Impeachment Committee and how it has sought to comply with the Constitutional Court's judgment. If the Speaker were to take an overtly partisan position against the President, she could undermine the perception that she is acting on behalf of the institution of Parliament as a whole. By maintaining neutrality while placing the relevant facts before the court, she preserves the integrity of her office and allows the judiciary to determine whether the committee should proceed immediately or await the outcome of the review application. The Impeachment Committee, on the other hand, has a stronger basis for opposing the President's application. Unlike the Speaker, it is directly affected by the relief being sought from the court. The President is asking the court to stop the committee from carrying out the very task Parliament assigned it under Section 89 of the Constitution. If the committee does not defend its mandate, there's a risk that its work could be suspended without the court hearing the arguments of the body most directly impacted by the application. The committee is therefore not acting as a political opponent of the President, but as a constitutional structure seeking to protect its ability to perform its lawful duties. It has a direct and substantial interest in the outcome of the case, which is why it is both entitled and arguably obliged to place its position before the court. While the above relates mainly to legal and constitutional matters, we now tackle the political stuff. We cannot ignore that Didiza is a product of political outcomes. She occupies the position of Speaker because the ANC, her political party, placed her, or more precisely, deployed her there. She is not a civil servant. She is a political operative, and Ramaphosa is her political boss. So it is only natural the ANC's opponents will always have that in mind when they judge her actions. After all, we do have a history of ANC speakers acting to protect their president. While I may agree with her stance on this matter, I cannot help but wonder how much this weighed on her decision. She's also not just any member of the ANC, she's a member of the powerful National Executive Committee. But the same applies to the other parties.
The President is challenging the panel report of Parliament. The Speaker's advice, legal advice, was only one option: oppose. There was no two options. Speaker can't rely on the legal advice of our committee. She went to get her own legal advice, said oppose. Then the legal advice told her what she didn't want to hear. Then she says when she does interviews, which is dishonest, the legal advice said, I also have an option to abide. Her advice doesn't have that option. It is your advice which has got that option.
Chair, I think that with regard to the Speaker's attitude, this committee must take a much more stronger attitude towards her abdication of her responsibility. She has the institutional leadership to protect the work of this parliament, and the highest court has ruled that this parliament must do its work, and the speaker can't throw her hands out and say that let the process take its course.
The reason they are so keen for the impeachment committee to go ahead as soon as possible is not that they are such great constitutionalists. The ANC is on the back foot following their losses in the general elections of 2024. Putting that party's leader on a public political trial is likely to worsen its image in the public's eyes. And that is the nature of electoral politics. The last point I want to make on this is the role Ramaphosa himself has played in putting himself, the ANC and the Speaker in this situation. In 2012, shortly after the Marikana tragedy, Ramaphosa bid up to 19.5 million rands for a prized buffalo cow and her calf. The incident became controversial because the bid became public just weeks after the Marikana killings and at a time when Ramaphosa was under intense scrutiny due to his shareholding in Lonmin. He subsequently apologized publicly, saying that it was a mistake to even put up his hand to bid. He went on to say that he regretted the bid because it represented an excessive price in the sea of poverty, and acknowledged that it was insensitive given South Africa's social conditions. His opponents regularly referred to him as Buffalo or McBuffalo, a play on his large shareholding in the McDonald's fast food franchise.
I buy and I sell animals. Sometimes people buy these animals, and some of the people who have bought some. I'm a farmer. I'm in the cattle business and the game business. And through that business, which has been declared in Parliament and all over, I buy and I sell animals. Sometimes people buy these animals, and some of the people who have bought some of the animals, some of them are here. I do it, yes. I do it through, the sales are sometimes through cash or sometimes through transfers. Some of the people who are offshore customers and who are sometimes local, they come through and buy animals, and some of them come also to hunt on the farm. And so this that's being reported was a clear business transaction of selling animals.
One is then left asking, what was he apologizing for? If he thought bidding on a buffalo was insensitive when he was merely a business person, what made him think it was okay for him to continue with game farming when he became president? This shows poor judgment by someone at the helm of our government. Beyond stolen money, it brings with it several other problems, including a possible conflict of interest. Game farming is a highly regulated industry, which means the government frequently has to make decisions that can directly affect the value and profitability of game farms. These include policies on wildlife permits, trophy hunting, animal movement, environmental regulations, water rights, and agricultural tax incentives. When a sitting president actively takes part in this business, questions arise about the actual or perceived conflict of interest because the same government they lead is often responsible for adjudicating matters that affect their private business interests. The technicality that he has declared this business is not going to help him politically. And that poor decision-making has brought him to this point. While Didiza and other ANC MPs are now being forced to carry the consequences of a mess they did not create. So in the end, even if Ramaphosa wins the legal battle, he has already lost the political one, because the ANC is going to elections with Phala Phala as an albatross hanging around its neck. You probably think I got this whole thing wrong. Please feel free to share your views in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This was another episode of Joe Talks Politics. From me, Joseph Musia. See you in the next one.